Welcome to Mental Metal Coaching, where our mission is to help you learn to thrive in the face of adversity, not just survive it. We are passionate about empowering you to live, play, and work with a resilient and spirited mindset. Hi, I'm Matt Toman. I'm an ICF professional coach and keynote speaker. My background as an athlete, basketball coach, teacher, and school administrator has equipped me with the insights that resonate deeply with the schools, teams, athletes, and coaches I work with. However, it's my personal journey through anxiety, cancer, and an ischemic stroke in 2020 that truly brings authenticity to my presentations. While learning to speak and write again, I also pursued and earned my ICF coaching certification. Now the practices I embrace are more than theoretical concepts. They're a way of life. Developing a positive mindset is within reach for all, but it requires self-awareness and the repetition of intentional activities. At Mental Metal Coaching, we'll guide you, your staff, and your students on this transformative journey. Together, let's forge your metal. This is the Mental Metal Podcast, where we explore how to forge mental toughness and resilience in every aspect of life. Welcome, I'm your host, Coach Matt Toman. I'm an ICF certified professional coach with a background as a teacher, basketball coach, and athletic director. But my journey took a dramatic turn in 2020 when I survived both cancer and a stroke. Those experiences shaped my mission to help others grow stronger in every facet of life. Today, I work with athletes, coaches, educators, and anyone who believes that positive mental health is both achievable and a personal responsibility. This podcast is dedicated to helping listeners develop a positive version of toughness, one rooted in resilience, focus, and growth. Whether you're looking to excel on the field, in the classroom, or in life, this is your space to learn, grow, and take action. Join me on this journey, and together, let's forge your metal. Welcome back, Metalheads. It's the Mental Metal Podcast with your host, Coach Matt Toman. I want to start with some gratitude. Thank you so much for joining me and just checking in every Monday or whenever you listen. That's the beauty of technology, right? But thank you so much for being a part of the journey and continuing to listen to the show. It's one of those things. It's amazing getting into this space and having this be this podcast being about mental toughness, mostly about athletics, and was something that I felt really strongly about whenever I really got into it. And I had a guy suggested I should do a podcast, so I did. And it's interesting to me that a topic like this it's mentioned on other podcasts, but there's not a lot of podcasts that it is like the main focus, and that's just what we talk about. And I know this because as the podcast has continued to grow, I get almost a couple emails a week with somebody wanting to be on the show and that does something kind of like I do and works the way I do and works in the same space as I do. And from the get-go, I have it was easy for me to look at somebody like that's a coach or a speaker, that somebody who does professional development, and look at it like a competitor and like it's kind of like, well, get your own podcast and do your own thing. And then I never once have I felt like that, and never once have I turned somebody away. And if somebody is in this business like I am doing this, I know that there's enough space that we could, if we're all being successful, we're what's a rising tide raises all ships. Like this is an idea that everybody that's out there, if we were busy all day long, we still aren't helping everybody that needs the help and needs to hear this message about how we can use how mental resilience is something that is not just necessary and useful, but something that can be trained and we can work on it. And, and plus everybody that I talk to does it in a slightly different way. Ricky, I had my last podcast last week with Ricky Scruggs, this phenomenal former professional baseball player that does something that like what I do. And he works with kids, and he has a baseball academy that he does and teaches a lot of this stuff. And
it's great. I learn stuff from people like that, and it's fantastic, and I love doing it. And today's guest, he's not in the world of sports necessarily, but if you're listening to this and you're a coach or an athlete or into sports, don't turn it off, because I think that I think one of the best things that we can do is take ideas from other areas. And if athletics are what you're concerned about, if you're a coach or a parent or an athlete, that we can take these ideas and we can apply it into the sports world, which quite honestly, in some levels of sports, need an overhaul. The way we do a lot of youth sports and things like that, it should be looked at in a different way. One of the best examples I have of that, I was talking to Chad Kluver the other day, a great basketball coach that I had on my show once, and he and I heard he was telling somebody while I was there that one of his favorite episodes that I've done is with Travis Thomas, the guy who works with teams but does it from an area of improv. And the other guy said, well, I saw that episode and I just skipped it because I thought, why do I want to hear anything about improv? And Chad was, very adamant that he said, I learned so much on a way I can use the yes and idea and how I can use some of the ideas that they do with improv to help my team get better and help me get better. And that's such a great endorsement for what I'm trying to do here. So like an episode today, I've got a woman on here, Dr. Brandi Kelly. She's a former superintendent of schools, used to be a social worker. She's now a leadership coach, does some speaking, does some professional development. And if we had one word to talk about, explain what we're going to talk about today, is the word hope. And that idea of hope and the way she presents it is something that I think that we need more of, and again, in all areas of life. And we may not talk about sports a lot here, but it definitely needs to be something that people apply to sports with your young people, with your coaches. And I know there's a challenging phase. I've heard it before, the phrase that says, hope isn't a strategy. And it's kind of a military thing that you can't go into a plan and all you have is hope. And that's, I understand what they mean. And that's absolutely true. Hope is not enough. You need to be prepared. You need to have a plan. You need to have to do these things. But I know that while hope is not a strategy, hope needs to be a part of every strategy. I do not want to be part of a plan that does not include hope, because if we don't have hope, why would we? I mean, it changes our motivation, and that gets into the idea of belief, and belief affecting motivation, and motivation affects our success, and our success affects our well-being. That's an idea of self-efficacy that comes from Dr. Albert Bandura, a famous psychologist. But anyway, the idea is that the hope and belief are fundamental to us doing things, and that's the lesson, is that without hope, athletes lose confidence, teams hit adversity, coaches become discouraged. So we have to have hope, because it's not a question of if adversity is coming, it's when it's coming. And what are you going to have when it does come, and how are you ready to be prepared even when it's really bad? And that is hope. And hope helps us, gives us that belief that we can move forward. So have that in mind when we have this conversation with Dr. Brandi Kelly. Well, hope is not just wishful thinking. Hope changes our focus and determines our future. And not only that, but hope is something we can use to build excellence and through daily habits, and how these daily habits gives us more hope. And it's a great conversation with Brandi. I like the way she says things. I like what she's doing and how she's helping people. So enjoy my conversation here with Dr. Brandi Kelly. I'll see you on the other side.
Coaches, do you dream of guiding mentally tough athletes towards a championship? Kids that are resilient, persistent, and unshaken by setbacks. Well, in today's world, those athletes aren't born. They have to be developed. Many athletes face significant challenges and risk burnout. So how do we foster that mental toughness without overwhelming them? Well, introducing the Ember to Inferno program, Building Mentally Tough Athletes. This series is designed specifically for coaches, offering a deep dive into your own journey of mental toughness and equipping you with practical tools to build confidence and belief in your athletes. Rather than just simply adding more adversity to their life, we focus on creating a strong foundation for mental resilience. You'll learn how to transform a spark of motivation into a blazing fire of toughness, using techniques that address challenges like social media pressures, athletic stress, and trauma. Don't just wish for mentally tough athletes, build them. Join the Ember to Inferno program today and ignite the potential in your athletes. For more information, contact me, Coach Toman, at Mental Metal Coaching. All right, Metalheads, it's the Mental Metal Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Matt Toman, here with my guest today, Dr. Brandi Kelly. Thanks for joining me, Brandi.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Oh, it's great. So I love this conversation. We're going to talk about hope. And before you say anything about hope, here's what I say sometimes about people about hope. And you can dive in, and we're going to get into your background and some of this stuff. But there's an old saying that sometimes whenever I start talking about hope, because I work with a lot of coaches, okay, and some of these can be somewhat gruff, old school individuals, right? Mm-hmm. And some of them will throw out this old school, I think maybe a military phrase, and they'll say you've probably heard it, where they say hope's not a plan of action, right?
Hope's not a strategy.
Hope's not a strategy.
Yeah.
And I will always counter and say that may be true, but I don't want to be part of any plan that doesn't involve hope. Mm-hmm. So you can say that all you want, but I'm going to tell you, I'll take a plan that has hope over one that doesn't, because I know which one is more likely to happen. So that's always I get where they're coming from. Mm-hmm. And just because I have hope doesn't mean I don't have a strategy, but that's my thought on it. And that's always hope is a foundational idea, and you have to have it in order for something to go well. So that's my thought on hope. And I just want to throw that out there to let you know where I'm coming from, and I'm on your side on this. And I love the idea. So give me the short version here, Brandi. Give us an intro for all my listeners and everybody.
All right. So I have been in public education for 24 years, went from social worker to principal to superintendent. And when I got to that role of superintendency, right, I was in the seat, I was doing the things, living the dream. It wasn't my dream.
I mean, that was where I was supposed to be, and this is what I've been shooting for the whole time, right?
Yes, exactly. Yep. But I got there, and that sense of fulfillment, it just wasn't there. And it caused me to have to really look at who I am and who do I want to become. You know, that idea of what do I really want, Matt? And when I got there and I wasn't fulfilled in the role after over 20 years in education, staying stuck was costing me so much. You know, they say every time you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else.
Yeah.
So in order to get really clear on what I wanted, I had to take a step back, and I left the superintendency about a year ago to pursue my dream of just helping other people become the best version of who they are. That's what coaching is all about, right? Mm-hmm. So now I'm speaking, I'm coaching. I've created a new business, Spark Hope EDU, when I should be planning for retirement. I'm starting over, but I'm loving every second of it.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure I'll feel different about it someday, but I don't know. Retirement to me feels a little bit overrated. Like I want to be able to do something. I want to keep doing something, right? And I'm sure someday I'll feel different about this, but as long as I'm doing something I really enjoy to help people and things like that, it's different. Like I think what I'm doing right now, I could continue to do for quite a while. I don't know how you feel about it.
I completely agree with you, Matt. I think that, it's a Mary Engelbert quote that I heard early on when I was at college at Greenville University. A professor quoted Mary Engelbert, and she said, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life.
Sure.
That's the goal, right?
Yeah. I mean,
Mhm.
I don't know the word I'm looking for. I mean, not everybody can have that situation.
Right.
I feel like there's jobs that just are necessary that are not conducive to anybody liking it. But I mean, if we can get into it, if you can, it's good work if you can find it. Is what I would say. Yeah, so I would absolutely agree with that. So what's the how hard was that? Like, was that a slow realization or a very acute thing where you're like, I don't think I want to do this anymore?
Yeah. As I look back, it was a slow realization, but in that moment, last year in the spring, it did feel acute because when I went to the doctor, I was having health issues. I was having, and I won't get into the nitty gritty of it just to spare your audience some of the specifics.
Hey, that it doesn't. All that stuff doesn't bother me, but that's fine.
But I was going to the doctor quite a bit and I was having some health issues. And I remember one specific visit where the doctor looked at me, and thankfully, Matt, he had had a wife who was a high achiever. She had
Hmm.
accomplished a lot of amazing things, and she was dealing with some of the same stressors and pressures and realizations that I was. And he just looked at me and he said, "You're going to have to make a choice. We get this one life, and we have to make choices in our life." And at that point in time, for probably the first time in my life, I chose me. I
Hmm.
chose to prioritize my health. I chose to prioritize the values that I hold dear: faith, family, service. And I chose to lean into what I'm really good at and go into speaking and coaching to try to make a difference in education, to try to make a difference in the world, but in a different way.
Yeah, and you chose you. I mean, you said I chose me, but you still went into a field that's helping others, and that's not. I mean, you can do. That's the thing is, I think sometimes that's a misnomer in thinking like I got to choose something. I got to choose me over everything else. Or like, no, there's always like it's not just option A or option B.
Right.
There's an option C as well. And I think that as you get into coaching, you start to people get that the very dichotomy of black and white. Well, it's either this or this, and that's one of the best part about coaching is like there's a whole long list that you're not even thinking about, and that's why we got to dig into some stuff and be like, okay, how do I do that? What does that look like? And did you so in your journey into deciding to be do some coaching,
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing that involved you being coached some, like
Yeah.
experience, like so. That's I'm interested in that
Mm-hmm.
journey of you experiencing coaching and being like, oh, this is good stuff. Because
Yeah.
I know for me it was very transformational that led me to want to do this with other people, and I'm just curious about yours.
Yeah. I told you at the beginning of the show, I started out as a school social worker. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
as a school social worker, I got my licensure in clinical social work. I have always been fascinated with human behavior, psychology, what motivates people, what makes people tick, right? I used to say I'd like to get, and I still do sometimes, I'd like to get into my husband's head specifically.
Mm.
Be a scary place, but sometimes I'd like to get in there and just see what's going on in there. I enjoy that human psychology piece, always have. But I didn't have a coach until I had been a principal for about 8 years before I had my first coaching experience.
Mm-hmm.
And if I could tell any beginning career principals anything, get a coach.
Yeah. It's
Get a
it's
coach.
unbelievable.
It's life changing. And, I started out and I did a coaching cohort, which was amazing. And then when I went into the superintendency, I had a one on one executive coach. And the thing I really appreciated about my coaches was that one, they didn't have any ulterior motives. They
Nope.
were just my cheerleader. They were my encourager. They were the person that was going to challenge me to get out of my own head. because that's a lot of our issues. And I know you do mindset coaching too, Matt,
Mm-hmm.
but just that mindset coaching, the cognitive distortions, the limiting beliefs, all of the things that get in our way. We get in our way more than anything else in the world. And so a coach helps you to see where you're getting in your
Yeah.
way, kind of
Yeah.
see the forest for the trees.
Oh, absolutely. And when we talk about, well, not only is it like, not only is us being on our own head and getting our own way usually the biggest barrier, it's also, Brandy, the only barrier we can do anything about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, we can't control what others are thinking, saying, or doing, but we can control what we're doing. And to me, that's a big part of coaching, is one, recognizing how much we're getting in our own way, but then realizing I'm spending way too much time and effort on things that don't matter.
Right.
How do I distill down to what I should be focusing on? And man, when you get that kind of clarity, your actions, they matter.
Yeah.
That's what's
Yeah.
so great about it.
It does. It fuels the hope you have in creating a
Mm-hmm.
better future. And, one story that really brings this home is I was a school leader, social worker for about 11 years, and then a principal and superintendent for 13 years. And at one point, a principal came to me and she said, how do we get people to change their mindset?
Mm-hmm.
Short answer is we don't. The only way that a person is going to change is if they make up their mind to change.
Yeah.
But I think, Matt, in our schools today, one of the obstacles that's getting in the way of progress, of change, of growth is the fact that so many people are stuck in their circle of no control.
Mm-hmm.
They're worried about the fact that the kid's coming from a home of poverty, or the parents aren't getting on board, or administration is not seeing things the way that you see them.
Or the
And
state of Illinois is causing this, or the list never ends.
it doesn't.
Uh-uh.
And again, you have to start operating in your circle of control, or your
Yeah.
circle of influence at the very least, in order to affect change. Because if
Yeah.
you're stuck in that circle of no control, you're going to be miserable. I guarantee it.
Always.
Hmm.
You're either going to be miserable, or you're going to be anxious, or even worse, you're going to be apathetic.
Yeah.
It's one of the, I always say that living in that circle of, outside your circle of control, breeds two things, either anxiety or apathy. And
Hmm.
neither one of those are they don't get us anywhere. They don't get us anywhere. And and I find that to be, whenever I go and work at schools and do that to me is it's the simplest thing. But if I can get people to recognize that most of their problems, most of their anxiety and their apathy is coming from them focusing on something that is out of their control, which
Yeah.
you should, if that is where you're focusing, it's not surprising at all that you are in a bad place.
Absolutely. And it's, the way that our brains were created too. I mean, when you
Yep.
look at the focus, wherever you put your focus, that's what is going to grow. I was just reading a study about the reticular activating system in the brain. And a simple example of that is, like, Matt, if you go out and you buy a red Ford pickup truck,
Yep.
you may have never seen a red Ford pickup
You'll
truck
see them now.
constantly,
Yeah.
because that's your focus. That is where you're focused on. And it's the same way when you're focused on how bad state testing is, or an administrator that you don't feel like is in your corner, or whatever. I mean, like you said, that list goes on and on and on, but you can choose.
Yeah.
And that's where the power lies, is in the choice. And I say in my work, choose hope.
Yeah.
It's a choice.
It's I mean, you think about it, like when you're talking about that confirmation bias, and you're looking for things like, how many times have you been in a teacher's office or another administrator's office, and a phone will ring, and you'll have the caller ID, and it could be a parent, or it could be, and before you even answer it, you see the person, or even yourself has probably done it, and you go, oh, wonder what they want. you like that's the sort of thing you're already like, you're not choosing hope. You're choosing, this is going to be a bad conversation. This is going to ruin my day. This is going to do this. And then you become part of the self-fulfilling prophecy that it does ruin your day. Right?
Absolutely.
Just by choosing to be negative about it. And that's, I know I know here's my problem. And I'd like you to talk about this at some point. You and I are out here having this conversation. And if we get somebody who doesn't necessarily think like us to actually listen to the show, they will look at us. I don't want to say like we're crazy, but somewhat like that. And the struggle is if you have not made that change and started to think with hope and start to think about things like that, you can't even understand that it's possible. And that's the hard part of what we try to do, is try to get somebody to go, no, this, you don't understand. This is possible for anybody, but you gotta want it and you gotta work at it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that is one of the reasons that I created my hope system, because as a social worker, I worked with a lot of different kids from, all walks of life. And what I learned as a social worker, or principal, or superintendent is you have to meet people where they are. That is the best way to help move them forward. Meet them where they are. And as you pointed out, assume positive intent.
Yes.
Because if you can assume positive intent and meet them where they're at, you're going to be able to coach them through this and to help them bring about the best version of who they are. And I bring that up, Matt, because with my hope system, tapping into that purpose piece, if people understand the why they're doing what they're doing, you might be able to cultivate some change in them. You might be able to help them connect with what's driving them, the driving force for whatever it is that they're doing or they want to do. So that purpose piece, I think, is very important. And a book that I read early on that has shaped my identity really is Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. You've probably read that book. And it's about an Austrian psychiatrist, and he was in a war camp. And that's what got him through. We can withstand just about any circumstance if we have that sense of purpose. I think we all need that as human beings.
I think that the thing is that most teachers, since we're talking about education, they come in with that sense of purpose and they know what it is and they want to do it, but then things get in the way and they lose sight of it, or think that it's not possible. Like most teachers, I want to come in and make a difference. I want to help kids. I want to do this. But then they get so focused again on the things they can't control. They think, well, it doesn't matter. It's impossible, which obviously isn't true. Because kids are shaped by good teachers every day. Right. So it's still possible. But you lose sight of it. So getting them to do that is so important. So when you talk about the hope system, like, let's break it down for us. What do you got?
So with the hope system, H is habits. Those are habits that ground you, habits that you are consistently choosing. And, going back to that teacher example that you mentioned, if they're getting hopeless because they've lost sight of their purpose, my first question to them would be, what habits are you choosing in your life to help you stay aligned with that purpose? And sometimes we say that our purpose is helping kids, educating kids. That's generic.
Yeah, it's real generic. It's not specific enough. Yeah.
Right. We have to get much more specific on our why, on our purpose, and then start cultivating those habits that keep us connected with our purpose. The mindset piece, that's the O, optimistic outlook. There's a lot of science out there that talks about the power of optimism for health and well-being. And if our mindset is focused on the positive, cultivating that positivity in our life, positive psychology, all of that, our habits are aligned to our purpose, we're going to live a life of excellence.
Mm-hmm.
Not a life where, we've all been in schools where you see the countdown, 20 days to summer break, 5 days,
Yeah,
10 days, whatever. Why are we living and counting down the
I
days?
know.
We're wishing our life away. Let's start being in the moment, enjoying the present, and living a life where we have clarity, we have purpose, and we have hope. And Matt, I will admit to you that, as a superintendent, I counted down the days.
Sure.
I did the same thing. But who's that serving?
Yeah, I agree. And here's one for you. You can use this one. This is when we talk about that optimism piece.
Mm-hmm.
When I think that education, I was just talking with Cal Thompson the other day about this,
Yeah.
and just saying that one of the problems we have, like we tell first year teachers, man, just survive, just
Mm-hmm.
survive.
Yeah.
That's not optimism. I mean, that tells us that some people don't, and
Right.
we're setting that profession up for pessimism from day one. Oh, it's a lonely profession. Oh, just try to survive. Well,
Yeah.
like, and then once you get to the end, let's count down the day. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's too much, and it becomes this thing that everybody just believes about teaching.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
then we get that confirmation bias. We're like, well, we look for reasons why teaching
Right.
sucks. And then
And,
guess what?
and
We find them.
our brain is wired that way.
Absolutely.
We're going to find the evidence if that's what we're putting out there.
That's correct.
And we've got to change that. It's, I was just reading an article today, and it talked about the fact that the pandemic taught us that change doesn't have to be slow. We can
It
make
doesn't.
radical changes pretty quickly. And that's one that we need to make immediately. We've all seen it, Matt. We've seen the teacher who is complaining in the teacher's lounge, or maybe the administrator that is bad mouthing the superintendent in the community, or
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, again, the list can go on and on. But why are we not our own best advocates? Why don't we champion education? We've devoted our life to education, but then we criticize everything that's going on. And I believe that you're either choosing to be part of the problem or part of the solution. So if you're a teacher, you're a leader, you're any kind of administrator, or even work in a school in any capacity, what can you say about your school district that is positive?
Yeah.
And if you can't find something, one, you're not looking hard enough. And two, you need to change the narrative. You need to change your mindset, and you need to find something positive to talk about, because quite frankly, and I'm kind of getting on my soapbox here, Matt, so I'm sorry.
You're fine. You're fine.
But we need to change that narrative, and we need to be our own champions. We need to share the great things happening in our schools. And if we're going to say that we got into it for the right reason, which is the kids, for a brighter future, for a more hope-fueled future, then we need to be part of the solution and be the change.
Well, so here's another example of that. So most your educators would sit there and complain about the negatives of social media,
Yeah.
which there are plenty,
Mm-hmm.
but it also gives us unprecedented ability to show off your school.
Yeah.
And we find schools that do that exceptionally well.
Mm-hmm.
And you will find positive posts from them on different students, different doing stuff, and they are relentless with it. And that's stored. And then people start to see that district in that light.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you'll have naysayers, sure, but that's fine. But they'll over time, that with that consistent positive communication, people start to be, oh, that's a good district. They're doing a lot of good stuff over there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's there you go. That's an example of we can take an idea that's somewhat new in the social media and say, am I gonna choose hope with that,
Right.
and hope that I can use that for something good, or just assume that it's going to be bad? And that's your mindset.
It
So
is.
so I think we got through O. What was P?
So P is the purpose,
Okay.
passion,
We
and
got
perseverance. So, we talked about the purpose piece, but, as a superintendent, that passion piece, I'm passionate about a lot of things,
mhm.
but I'm also going back to the self-awareness. Self-awareness is huge. It's foundational to my whole system. And we have to know who we are. We have to work on knowing who we are. And I'm a DI on the DISC assessment. So I'm dominant, I'm an influencer, and I enjoy galvanizing people and getting them motivated to act. But with that D piece, I'm also very direct and can sometimes be task oriented. So when my stress increases, I go that direction. I'm more direct, I'm more dominant, and I'm more task focused. And so, knowing who you are, knowing how you respond under pressure, knowing what your blind spots are, and being able to accommodate for that when you're dealing with other people is so incredibly important. And I didn't always do a great job of cultivating opportunities to really be passionate and to be joy filled in my work, right? Sometimes I I let my default settings take over and I didn't accommodate for that. I
Yeah.
think we have to find something every day in our work to help us bring the joy.
Yeah.
It's a
When you
choice.
say when you say default settings, I get it there because
Mhm.
that it knowing like doing some of those tests, there's like an Enneagram or like those assessments are powerful, not to be used as a crutch,
Right.
as an excuse on why I am acting like this,
Yeah.
but as a guidepost of how you should be interacting with people,
Mhm.
tasks, doing things. Because if you don't know that about yourself, you're not gonna like combat some of the issues that go with every personality type. You're gonna go into the default, and the default is not
Mhm.
good. The
Right.
default gets us in trouble. I
Absolutely.
think you and I talked. We're both Enneagram threes,
Yeah.
which is great. Which is why we're both running podcasts, doing our own businesses, things like we could like. There's a lot to be said for that, on why we're doing what we're doing. But it also means that we have to be aware whenever we have those lulls in our business,
Mhm.
that if we're having those lulls in our business and we're not getting the attention that we want, or it's not growing like we want, we can hole up and disappear and lose all our joy. But once I know that about myself, I'm like, okay, find something else to be positive about, find
Mhm.
something else to be to me to find that I'm achieving at,
Right.
because it's there, but I got to
Mhm.
be intentional about it. So just knowing that about yourself, it just helps you guide yourself,
Yeah.
and you have to be doing that.
It's a game changer. Really, it was a game changer for me. And I wish I would have known all of this
Oh
earlier
yeah.
in my career. I was in my early 40s when I first started doing, really intentionally doing some of these self assessments. I did some in college, but I don't think I connected the dots back then.
No.
It wasn't until I was older that I was able to really apply this to my life and my leadership. And you bring up a good point, Matt, when you think about these self assessments and how sometimes you can isolate yourself when things aren't going the way you want. I think that's also a good reminder. And this is a good opportunity to share this with the audience that we have to surround ourselves with people that are going to help us,
Hmm.
encourage us, support us, bring out the best in us. I was just recently at an event, it was a speaking event, and I walked into a room of about 360 female leaders. A little bit anxious, honestly,
Sure.
about that situation. But when I got there, it felt like family because in that room, we were like-minded individuals who were reaching for the same goals, who were doing the same things, passionate about the same things, and everybody there was choosing collaboration over competition. And
Yeah.
there are rooms like that. They exist. And sometimes we are somewhat institutionalized in education, and we forget that the world is so much bigger than our school or our district or our community. You can find rooms where you can cultivate the best in
Sure.
yourself.
If you are a parent of an athlete, I want you to hear this. You are already your kid's most powerful mental performance coach. It's not me. It's not their strength coach. It's not their varsity coach. It's you. The way you talk in the minivan, at the dinner table, and after games is literally wiring your athlete's brain for either confidence or anxiety. That is a lot of pressure and it's kind of daunting. And that's why I created my free email course called the Resilient Parents Playbook. In it, I walk you through the 5 most common mistakes we make as sports parents, and I give you simple, practical tools to fix them. You'll learn how to praise effort and attitude instead of just results, how to handle the car ride home, and how to help your kid manage nerves and pressure in a healthy way. It's completely free. Just hit the link in the show notes and grab the Resilient Parents Playbook and start becoming the kind of mental coach your athlete actually needs at home. Yeah, and that's why those professional development opportunities and doing some of that, and that's why hiring a coach is so powerful too,
Yeah.
right? Because a good coach is going to be 100% on your side, but also challenge you to get there, which is also like probably, now that you've been coached and you understand what it feels like and understand the benefit of it, when you walk into a room like that and you feel it, you notice it. You're like, oh, this is the kind of place I want to be. Or you recognize this is not the kind of place I need to be, because you
Right.
recognize what that feels like and but it's so much recognition on those things that you don't have before. I mean, I didn't do a personality test until I got into getting my coaching certification. That's the first time I'd even heard of an Enneagram.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm finding out I got an Enneagram 3 after I've already had a stroke from too much, and I'm like, oh well, this makes a lot of sense now. Like I wish I'd have known some of this stuff a few years ago, because this is what, like, the fact that I get sent home from work because of the COVID and don't have anybody to lead for months.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't go well for an Enneagram 3, that just sitting at home. My wife was just like, that's not her. She's a 6. Security is big, her
Yeah.
thing. Like, she could sit in front of her computer in her yoga pants and was like, she was fine. That's not good for me at all. I didn't know that, right? I don't know that about myself. And that's what, it's so important to go understand what your personality is, what your values are, and what drives you, because what drives you can also what's breaking you if
Yeah.
you're not allowing it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Which is so, again, that's that coaching piece and why it's so important. So
Mhm.
yeah. All right. So what's the E?
So the E is excellence. That's the standard. It's
Okay.
not perfection. It's just getting 1% better every
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
Progress over perfection. And, for Enneagram threes, for if you're a disc style D, excellence can feel like perfection sometimes. Like
Mm-hmm.
that needs to be the goal, but it's not. It's just getting better and comparing yourself yesterday against yourself today, not
Yeah.
comparing me against you, but just consistently getting better. And Matt, it all goes together because, like I said before, it's a continuous cycle of improvement where you start out by assessing who you are, you envision the life you want, kind of your dream casting, your vision casting,
Mm-hmm.
and then you focus and act on your habits, your optimistic outlook, your purpose, passion, perseverance to cultivate that life of excellence.
Yeah. I mean, Brandi, there's so much between what you say and what I do that, like, obviously we got coaching background, so we're going to do it the same, but you just do it in a different way than I do, but it's the same. I do the same things. And what's really interesting when you're talking about getting 1% better every day, there are things that could happen in your life that are going to, like, it's not going to happen. Like, you're
Right.
going to get knocked way back, but it still doesn't change what we need to do the next day.
Yeah. And Matt, I say that adversity, it's not if, it's when it happens. We're all
Absolutely.
adversity. None of us choose adversity. And, when I look back over the milestones in my life, when I was 15, my brother Brandon drowned. And then 9 years later, my mom died of cancer and I was her caretaker. And then there were some other obstacles in my life. And then finally, my dad just recently, he had Parkinson's and dementia, and he died. Life can get really heavy. Nobody chooses that. You didn't choose to have a
No.
stroke. You wouldn't choose that.
No, you wouldn't.
But I believe that with that adversity, it can either make you bitter, or it can make you, I don't know, it can enrich you. It can help you to bring out the best version of who you were created to be. And I look back on all that adversity in my life, and I believe it was a blessing.
Yeah. And that does not mean that you are glad it happened or you wished it would happen or you want more of it. But I don't think I don't believe there's any other option than seeing it as so you say that my phrase, everything you say, I'm like, I say it a different way, but I say the same thing, which I love making those connections. I say that we have to take stuff that happens to you and turn it into stuff that happened for you.
Yes.
And I didn't choose it, but that doesn't mean it didn't exist. So why wouldn't I it's a bad thing that I wish didn't happen, but that doesn't mean I can't use it for me.
Absolutely.
What that when you want to talk about, when you talk about confidence, that breeds confidence that it doesn't matter what happens next. I got it. I got it. Whatever happens, I got it. No, again, bad stuff's still going to happen.
It is everywhere, all the time. And it's going to happen because it's no respecter of persons. It's going to happen. It might happen to you. It might happen to me. It might happen to the guy down the road.
Yeah.
It's just going to happen. And so we can either choose to allow it to make us bitter and resentful, or we can use it as fuel to turn kind of that pain into purpose.
Yeah. I don't think, again, I don't think it's any other choice. I think that's just what we have to do. What's interesting about the word, I'm going to get into the word hope, but as I kind of said before about it kind of gets it's a Pollyanna view, right? Like, oh, if you're just dealing with hope, but I think that's, I don't know. It's almost like it became that from like the way people use it, like in movies and things like that, becomes a sarcastic thing, as in like, I hope this works. And they say it in a way that meaning that they don't have any reason to believe that it is going to work. It's like, oh, I hope this works. And it's just a wish and a prayer. That's not the definition of hope. That's not what hope is. Hope is an expectation of something positive to happen. It's not much different than the word belief.
Right.
And you have to have hope and belief if you want to move forward. And that's
Yep. And you were talking about movies. I mean, there's so many quotes in movies, and there's a few hope quotes that kind of stick out to me. Have you watched Shawshank Redemption?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
In Shawshank Redemption, Andy's perspective is that hope is a good thing. He says, Red may be the best of things, and no good thing ever dies.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's just that power of perspective. And then Red talks about hope also. He says, let me tell you something, my friend. Hope is a dangerous thing. Hope can drive a man insane.
Yeah.
So, it depends on your perspective.
It does.
The way you're looking at it. And we all have a perspective on hope. And our perspective on hope is driven based on our life experiences. My perspective on hope was shaped because when my brother drowned, my community showed up for us. They gave me hope that tomorrow could be better.
Yeah.
Now, I talked to a teacher about hope one day, and he said, I struggle with that word because whenever my wife had some miscarriages, people said, don't lose hope, don't lose hope. And it colored that word for him.
Sure.
It gave him a negative connotation to the word hope. And I think we have to be cognizant of our perspective of hope, but it doesn't matter what you call it. It's exactly as you said, Matt. It's that belief that tomorrow can be better.
It's you
That
have to have it.
we have
Yeah,
to have.
I'm a huge Ted Lasso fan. I don't know if you,
Yeah,
but there was, because there's a couple episodes there where they talk about, they all say it's the hope that kills you, and they're talking about how you can't have hope because you're just going to be disappointed. And good old Ted, of course, is not. He doesn't have. He's like, he's not having it. Right.
right.
That's again. I just I don't know. Again, I think the hardest part is getting people that have never really kind of dealt in hope or believed in hope or had a positive outlook on life,
Mm-hmm.
is that they just think that they look at somebody like us who talks like that and does this and says, "Oh, they just don't understand."
Yeah.
Like you're not being realistic.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I
But
just don't think it's the truth. Yeah.
don't you think that you know, I don't know, tell me your opinion on this. I believe that you can always choose to live in your purpose.
Mm-hmm.
You can choose your mindset and you can choose the habits. And depending on those three things, you're either going to cultivate a life of excellence, a life that you can love, or a life that you want to escape from. The
Yeah.
choice is yours. It all boils down to the choices that you make in life. And think about that for a minute. We can all think about people that have chosen not so positively
Mm-hmm.
and look at their life. The only thing that separates those people that are joyful and hope fueled and those people that are more bitter and resentful and negative, it's the choice and the way
Mm-hmm.
they show up in their lives.
Yeah, it really is. I don't know if you've looked into it, but you should, if you haven't, look into Dr. Albert Bandura's stuff on self-efficacy,
Yeah,
because he boils it down in such a phenomenal way to just be like, he takes that little Pollyanna idea and just dismantles it and says, no, like if we have belief in our ability to do something,
right.
or we don't have belief in our ability to do something, that little belief or non-belief
Mhm.
is everything, because it
Yeah,
spurs our motivation, which our motivation increases our chance of success, which increases our well-being, or it does all the opposite. And it is it's the problem is, I think that people can't believe it. It is that simple.
right.
It is that
Absolutely.
simple.
And I'm so interested in the fact that you brought that up because my book, Lead with Hope,
Mm-hmm.
is about building a system of self efficacy.
Yeah.
So I root that in two theoretical foundations.
Yeah.
One is Albert Bandura's work.
Yeah.
That power of self efficacy and things being cultivated through mastery experiences. That's the most powerful way to do it. When you experience success, success is going to beget success, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's contagious. And there's four sources of self efficacy. But the other theoretical foundation of my book is Dr. Rick Snyder's hope theory, or some people call it the science of hope. And he
Mm-hmm.
talks about three key elements in hope: goals, agency, and pathways.
Mm-hmm. It's here's what I want. I'm going to
Yeah.
stand up for myself, and here's the way to get it. Right? It's not. Again, the thing is, I always like to joke that none of this stuff is rocket science. It's
Yeah.
not. You know what I mean? But it's choosing to do it, and then it doesn't happen overnight either.
No,
There's not
it
a
does.
magic. There's not a magic pill. I can't wave a magic wand. It's going to take a little bit of time to do that. And I think that's where we lose a lot of people, is it like,
Yeah.
it takes like you to change your mindset and to change what you think about stuff and to deal in hope. It doesn't happen one day at a time. It's you really have to work on it,
You
and
do.
it has to be very intentional. And
Yeah.
that's where we lose people.
It is. And the best analogy for that is thinking about it like a bank account.
Mm-hmm.
The more money you put in, the
Yep.
more interest you're going to get, right?
Yeah.
consistency compounds.
Yep.
And so if we cultivate, if we can get clear on what we want, that's the first hurdle.
Yeah.
Clear on what you want. And then cultivating that mindset and those habits to create that life, the more consistent you're on. And that's not on the highlight reel. Like when I go and look on Facebook or Instagram, you're not going to see the early mornings of getting up and taking walks or running or exercising or doing whatever it is that you need to do to cultivate that life. You're just going to see the results after many years of doing that.
Well, here's a little piece of advice for anybody listening that doesn't realize this. Greatness is very boring.
Mm-hmm.
Like people that ascend to heights and get a lot of things done, they've done it through a lot of consistent repetition that you might find very boring.
Yeah.
And it's hard for some people to believe that's how you get it, is just this consistent repetition. And then because what you think is what you and I might look and say, well, that seems like a boring life. Mm-hmm. That person has stayed true to it and stayed consistent, and they don't find it boring. They know that this is the means to an end. And Absolutely. It's your it's the habits. It's the habits, right?
The habits. It's the consistent, intentional choices or habits that you're making. And Matt, about a year ago, I was coaching a leader and she was feeling very, very overwhelmed. She was stressed. There were some issues going on in her family. There was some issues going on in her work. And she just felt hopeless at that point in time. And she's like, I don't even know where to start. I feel so overwhelmed by everything that's going on. Mm-hmm. And I would say there are 3 things that you could do in order to just get started today and start cultivating that life that you love. And the first one that I would encourage people to do is to pull out a journal. And even if it's 1 line a day, write something about your day, specifically what you're grateful for.
Yes. Gratitude is huge.
If you can write down what you're grateful for and be specific, I am grateful for Matt because he is consistently showing up in schools and supporting our students and helping them to be the best version of who they are. Yep. The more specific, the better. So gratitude, journaling is the number 1. Acts of gratitude, whether it's writing them down in your journal or taking a gratitude walk and naming the things that you're grateful for. And then I would say the third one, and this is for me, it may not resonate with other people, but aligning with your values. For me, it's faith. Mm-hmm. Every single morning I get up, I read the Bible, I pray, and that's how I start my day. That is a grounding habit that starts my day on the right foot. Yeah. So journaling, gratitude, and cultivating just a simple habit that helps you to be the person you want to be.
You've just bookended your day with habits. So you start with your Bible and your faith, and you end with some gratitude. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing when you bookend your day with those positive actions and thoughts, how the middle, it'll start closing in on the end from both ends. It'll start closing in and it will start to affect things that are happening on at lunch and in the middle of the day. And that's great. So, this has been a great conversation, Brandi. The last question I always ask my guests as we're running out of time here is, what's the question I didn't ask you that I should have? What's the question you thought, oh, he was probably going to ask me this and he didn't? Like, what did I miss?
Question.
Oh, it's my favorite.
Yeah. Because you do a lot of coaching with athletes and, in the sports arena, I kind of expected you to ask me something about sports or something in that.
I wanted to, but I didn't get, I don't know. We just get, the problem is we get going. What is that? Like that it is impossible to remove athletics from education.
Right.
Because that is just the way we've done it here in America. Yeah. So how does all this stuff fit to a coach?
When I was a superintendent, I would always say, and I'm raising 2 fingers up in case somebody's not watching this and they're just listening to it. But I would always say that academics is number one
Yeah.
and sports is number two. But
it's
oftentimes
it's
it's just the reverse, right?
I know.
And you could agree with that or you could disagree with that. But the reality is, sports has a very important part in education. And we might as well lean into that
I
and utilize that to help to develop the character and the life skills that our
hmm
kids are going to need in order to be a productive citizen and the best version of who they're becoming. I think it's a very crucial part of education.
Yeah, I think that I don't care about athletics from a perspective of who wins.
Hmm.
I care that it is the perfect metaphor or proving grounds for us to learn how to deal with life.
Yeah.
And if you can learn to deal, as you said, all those HOPE, if you all four of these, if you could get a coach and an athlete to do those things,
Hmm.
they fit. Well, it fits to anything, but
Yeah.
what we need to take that hope and apply it to the thing that's important to us.
Yeah.
And for a lot of kids in schools and coaches and things, that's an athletic endeavor. So
Hmm.
take those that system of hope and you apply it to your sport,
Hmm.
and you're going to learn so much, right?
Yeah.
And make progress. And it won't be about winning games, but it's not going to help you. It's not going to not help you win games. I know that.
Exactly. Yeah,
That's the thing.
absolutely. I and
So,
I, I talked to a coach when I was a superintendent. He was a junior high coach, basketball coach, and he and I had that exact same conversation. Just giving our kids a practical framework that
mhm.
they can utilize, teaching them that while they're athletes, while they're students, and allowing them to cultivate that in a safe environment and then use it in adulthood. I mean, that's what
Yeah,
it's all about.
that's what it's all about. That's
Hmm.
why that's what education should be about. And quite honestly, even some of the education stuff is like that as well, because I mean, yes, I know that kids need to learn algebra, but not every kid's going to go and use algebra. And they're not every kid's going to, like a lot of kids, the last paper they're going to write is in high school English. Like it's just not just about that, but it's about learning how to do things and advance, use different avenues to get through stuff and learn stuff. And that's kind of
Yeah.
what it's about. So,
And when you look at the purpose, what, Matt Tillman, is your purpose in life?
hmm
If you can get to know who you are, where you shine, what are your strengths, and really lean into those strengths and the things that you're good at, right?
hmm
Wow, how that is powerful.
yeah,
And to utilize that to help them choose an occupation and help them to choose their purpose in life, it's just, I don't know. It's inspiring to me.
it is. It was huge for me when I got my coaching certification and doing this and learning. We did an exercise called the life purpose statement, and it was so powerful to me because it helped me learn what I do and why I do it, and
Hmm.
it colors everything I do now. Like
Yeah.
I can look back at everything I do and like I know why I'm doing what I'm doing, and I can explain it to you, right? So
Mhm.
it's why I'm having a conversation with you today, right?
Right.
So
Right.
that's a powerful thing. So Brandi, it's been a fantastic conversation with you. We're like all the best. I don't think that there's enough. I don't know if there's enough people out there doing professional development in the way that we're doing it,
Hmm.
in the helpful way that I'm doing it, and using that positive psychology and that coaching, because I think I'm guessing you're going to reiterate this, but I every time I go to a school, they can't get enough of it. They
Hmm.
love it, right?
Hmm.
And it's which I'm just think a lot of places are hungry for it, and they don't know that it's there. And
Yeah.
so keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
You bet. You
Yep.
bet. Thanks, Brandi.
Thanks, Matt.
Your athlete probably spends hours working on the specific skill set they need for their sport. And they probably spend hours in the weight room building their body. But how much time do they spend intentionally training their mind? Well, building mindset is the key to bridging the gap between the skills that we see and game execution. Well, Mental Metal Coaching provides individual programs that can help your athlete develop this third and crucial skill set.
I know I say it all the time, but I love that interview because it's somebody else saying the same thing I do. They just say it in a different way, which is important because people need to hear things in a different way, or different people reach different people. But regardless, a few of the takeaways that I just absolutely loved. First of all, the idea that hope, and she was all about hope fuels action. Again, I keep going back to that idea that people love to say that hope isn't a strategy. Maybe. I get the point. But hope's what gets you moving. Without hope, why bother to go to practice? Without hope, why bother to even try to improve? Without hope, how are you going to behave in the face of adversity? Hope isn't just pretending things are going to be okay. Hope isn't this passive thing. Hope is believing that your actions matter. That's a huge idea if you're listening to this and you are looking into it from the world of athletics. If an athlete loses hope, effort will just disappear. Okay. And effort is everything we need because talent's not enough. We know that talent is not enough to achieve our athletic goals. We have to have that effort. And if you don't have the hope, you won't have the effort. So it's so important to understand that hope fuels action. The second part is hope ties heavily into the idea of circle of control. And I talk about control the controllables all the time. It's probably one of my number one sessions I have with athletes and teams and individuals, is just the idea of controlling what you can, and not just controlling what you can, but focusing on what you can control and ignoring what you can't. It's probably from that conversation with Brandi, it's probably one of the best lessons for coaches. Just think about like how much of your emotional energy today went towards things you can't control. Could be, if you're talking about yourself, it could be your bosses, your coworkers. You could even been the weather. And if we're talking about athletics, we're talking about officials, playing time, injuries, refs, other coaches. You can't do anything about those, right? You can't change those. You might be able to influence some of those a little bit, but you can't change them. But you can focus on your preparation, your attitude, your leadership, your communication, your effort. The reason that hope is so important is because we can't have hope. This sounds so bad, but it's the truth. We will lose hope if we put all of our faith in what others are going to do for us and how the universe is going to treat us, because we know how that goes. And not to say that there aren't helpful people out there, because there are, but there's more people that care less, that don't care anything about us, that are working against us. And that's just the way it goes. Unfortunately, especially when we're talking about athletics, because other people are trying to win. And if we're looking at it that way, if we put our hope into others to help us win, you're going to be disappointed. So if you spend all your time focused on things you can't control in others, it's going to over time breed either one of two things, either anxiety or apathy. Both of those fight against hope. Hope gives us belief. So if we spend the time focusing on things we can control, we will start to make progress on the ideas in the areas that we can control. And once we start to make that progress, we have belief in ourselves and hope that we can continue to get better. And we have a hope that our overall goals can be reached because we know what it takes to do it. And it's so simple though, it's so hard. It's one of those things that it's so hard to do, but it's useful to do. And just because it's something we can control doesn't mean it's easy to control. And hope is a huge part of that, because if it gives us again, it's that belief, and that belief can only come if we're focused on things we can control, because over time it'll erode if you're not focusing on the right things. And then point number 3 is the idea that greatness is surprisingly boring. And she talks about like habits in here. So I think this is probably one of my favorite parts of this episode is the idea of the word H in hope, and she has it stand for habits. And everybody wants confidence, everybody wants success, everybody wants to win the championships, but very few people enjoy and understand what actually creates those. It's that consistency and that habits. It's these things we do daily that reach that greatness and make us better. This really ties into the idea of neuroplasticity too. It's habits, and I talk about all the time. We need 2 things in order to use neuroplasticity, which is the ability to reorganize synaptic connections, so change things differently. We need recognition and we need repetition. So we need to recognize what we need to get better at and what we struggle at, and repetition of a habit to build that and build those neurons. So when we talk about building those habits and the H in hopes, it is something we do daily. It can look kind of boring. But that's where excellence is built. And maybe boring isn't the right word, but it definitely needs consistency. Okay. It needs to be something that you plan and do every day. I was at a school working with a football team on Monday, and I said to them what I say everybody whenever I go do a short session or just a couple hours session or working with some teachers. I said, this, you may, and usually it's toward the end, and I've gotten a lot of good feedback, and people are nodding and people are enjoying what I do because it's a good thing and people love it and people love these ideas. But I let them know that if you don't build in some repetition, you don't build in some habits on what we're talking about today, these 2-3 hours I spent with you is for nothing, because it doesn't change your thought process. It gives you the recognition. I'm here today, I tell them, for 2 or 3 hours, and my main goal is to give you that recognition and realize why you need to do things differently and that you can do things differently. And I'll give you the habits and the exercises you can do to build it, but I can't be there to hold your hand. You have to actually put some time into your day, the beginning, at the end, or during, to build that habit, to change that neural pathway and change your actions. And if you change your actions, then things go differently. But without the habits, it doesn't matter. So, and because champions, if we look at it from an athletic perspective, champions become champions because they do ordinary things extraordinarily well and with a lot of consistency. And that's what it is. And that goes for all walks of life. So I'll leave you with this. Where do you need more hope this week? Where do you need more belief in yourself? Where do you need more habits? Where do you need more focus on controllables? Let's take the word, if you don't like the word hope, because whatever, that's fine. But where do you want those things in your life today? Where do you need it? Where do you need that belief? Where do you need those habits? Where do you need that focus on controllables? Is it somewhere with your team, your family, your career, whatever? I want you to think about, where could I have more hope? And the last thing I want you to leave you with is the idea that, and hopefully you've learned this today. Hope is not passive. Hope is aggressive. Think about it. How much that changes our mindset. If we say hope is not passive, hope is aggressive. Hope chooses to believe we can be better tomorrow. Hope is putting in effort to make things better tomorrow. Hope is the idea of aggressive patience. Yeah, we have to wait for things to come, but I'm going to be working really hard to make sure it happens like I want it. So be thinking about that idea, and maybe that'll change your mindset towards hope. So if this episode encouraged you at all, please share it with another coach, teacher, leader, athlete, whomever. Take the time to help me out, like, share, subscribe, do all those things for me. I know that you're out there listening because I see the numbers. I know people are paying attention, but I love it if you continue to share it for me. But for now, we're out of time. This has been the Mental Metal Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Matt Toman, and always remember to forge your metal. Thanks for listening to the Mental Metal Podcast. Don't forget to tune in every week for more insights and strategies to help you forge mental toughness and resilience. This podcast is brought to you by Mental Metal Coaching, where we are driven by a passion for sharing knowledge and experience that empowers others to play, live, and grow with confidence. Our mission is to instill a resilient and spirited mindset in our clients, enabling them to confidently face adversity and actively seek new challenges for personal growth. At Mental Metal Coaching, we offer individual coaching, group coaching, and professional development for schools and businesses. Whether you're an athlete, educator, or professional, we're here to help you unlock your potential and thrive in every area of life. Until next time, keep growing, stay resilient, and always remember to forge your metal.